Hi, this is Grant Coombs III, aka Balbomb, coming to you for another video from CardRunners.com. Here we're going to come back with part 2 of our Leakfinder from Epdog, also named Adam, that I'm sure a lot of the CardRunners members have interacted with over the years. And in the first video, we talked a lot about what are some of the basic adjustments that you need to make from the anonymous tables from your standard tables where you're playing with a HUD. And some of the bigger ones were, one, that we need to really focus in on our assumptions and to put more to hone in on them and to put more emphasis on our assumptions and to go with them more often. We also want to start off tight and to adjust from there. We want to take control of pots typically. We want to be 3 and 4 betting more often than not. We also need to realize that anonymous players are probably going to be more susceptible to some really random plays of either bluffs or calling down completely lightly. Finally, we really need to focus on remembering how incredibly important fundamentals are within our games, and the stronger your fundamentals are going to be, probably the more you're going to be making money at this on these sort of tables. When we were talking through our first video, we actually expanded on that list and we came up with another really important one that I forgot about previously. And this was that it's really important during anonymous games to really focus on game flow, because I think game flow is going to have a far bigger impact than they would on typical other tables, because on regular tables, because typically players are going to be playing less games and they're going to be really honed in on the games that you're playing. And additionally, you're probably going to be having a lot of guys that are just 1 or 2 tabling and thus really paying close attention. Whether it's for good or bad, they're still going to be paying really critical attention to if you've been winning a lot of money, if you've been losing money, or even possibly what lines are you doing for strength and which ones are you doing for weakness. So thinking about all those ideas, let's go back into the game flow here. As always, it's going to be table 1 here, table 2, table 3, and table 4. And then additionally, we're going to try to become a little bit more critical of Adam's game and look for improvements in how we can really adjust to be an even bigger winner than he is already in the games. We led off the last video by talking about how I just don't think that 7-9 is really going to be a profitable open here. And what happens here is we ended up on table 3 opening, and when he calls the flop, he could call the flop with as light as something like 7-8 here, or 4x or 6x, and he's almost always with that sort of hand, he is going to win the pot once he calls the flop here. So it is a situation where you really need to look out for this. And additionally, when you're playing recreational opponents, one of the worst things you could possibly do is to have a lot of situations where you're c-betting out of position with a weaker hand, and then once you get called, you're just completely shutting down. What I'd like to see you guys do instead is to take a slightly tighter range than what feels comfortable against more recreational players. What this does is 2 things. First of all, it differentiates your ranges from theirs, meaning you're going to have a big advantage once you're playing pots with them. And additionally, when you're in fewer pots, they're actually going to give you more respect. So then when you actually choose to make a bluff here, you are going to get more respect, and you might get him to fold a hand like pocket 5s. Rather than a situation like this, he's almost always going to be calling. Now on table 2 here, the button opened and we ended up calling with pocket 5s. This is a situation where we don't really know a ton about the player in the big blind. I believe the previous more weak recreational player just left, so this is a new guy in the big blind. Obviously, when we're talking about assumptions, we assume that he is a weaker player. Not a huge fan of calling pocket 5s regardless, though, in this situation. I'd definitely like to see him instead either 3-bet pocket 5s or just simply fold them. Additionally, when he has less than 100 big blinds, it again makes calling with pocket 5s look a little bit less interesting as well. On the river here, I think it is a little bit close between getting called or not here by 8x, but I don't mind this thin value bet. That's never going to be a mistake that I'm really going to be worried about all that often. Against a better player, I think he does really only call us there with 8x. but obviously we call it 5s probably for a reason here. On table 1, we opt to just squeeze with pocket queens. Really standard spot. Situation we're going to be happy to stack off here.